Good morning. Today should be a beautiful day. We are going to be working on the Terrain today. We need to put a CV axle in this thing on the driver's side. I've never done that before, so that should be an experience. I think this car's got 121,000 miles on it. We've had quite a few problems with this thing. But this is not a how-to video, by the way. We're just hanging out. I do have the fun, the pleasure, the joy, whatever, of working in a gravel driveway today. When we built our house in 2018, every other house I've ever lived in before has always had a concrete driveway. It's always had a garage to work in. Then we built this house and it's gravel. And I wish I had at least a blacktop driveway, but they're pretty expensive. So maybe one day. Laying in this gravel all the time to change my oil and everything, I have not enjoyed that. So we got to get our tools together, get our parts together, and we'll get started. We got the wheel off. I don't even own a floor jack. I'm just using the jack that came with the car. I am going to put a jack stand under here for a little extra safety. You know, we try to do safety first, or at least second or third. So when you're backing out of a parking space or turning around in the driveway, there's a lot of clicking. There's the new CV axle. I got it at O'Reilly's. Was 114 plus tax. I think it was like 121 out the door. Supposed to have a lifetime warranty. I really hope to not have this vehicle long enough to use it. It's time to start taking all this apart, and I do not have an impact gun. Normally I use my ratchet and a hammer and just beat everything. So I'm going to try something different. I've got this little impact. I normally use this to drive screws. And I found this little kit, this little pack at Home Depot, that you can use this to put sockets or impact sockets into this little thing here. So we're going to see how that works. Well, that doesn't work at all. I'm sure I'll find another use for these things. I only paid $10 for the little kit, but it will not even break these caliper bolts loose. I mean, it's probably because of this thing. It's, you know, it's not, doesn't have the torque or whatever it needs. Since I don't have an impact to take the axle nut off, or the spindle nut, whatever you call that thing, I had to pop out the center cap of my wheel, put it back on there. Got my 36mm socket and a breaker bar, and this thing was not even tight. The last person to touch this thing was a Chevrolet dealership, and I guess they did not torque it to the right spec. I don't know. I was concerned that I wasn't going to be able to break this axle nut loose without an impact gun, but I just used this little breaker bar. Didn't even have to put a long bar on it. It was pretty loose. We have a problem. I cannot get the CV axle out of there. So I'm going to have to go get, I think, a slide hammer axle puller. I've just got no room to work in here. I got a couple of pry bars and a crowbar. I've got no room to work. I found another problem too, which is great. This ball joint, look at that. The ball joint boot completely ripped. So this lower control arm, I guess I'm gonna have to get a new one of those. It's another $150. Yay, I just got it. We got it out of there. I did not have to go get the axle puller, slide hammer. I just kept using this pry bar right here. Stuck it in there and I just kept, anyway, something like that. Working around it as best I could. Finally broke free. I watched another video. It's this little ring here. That's what really makes it hard to pop out of there. We're leaking a lot of transmission fluid. I got my drain pan down there. So we're gonna put this new axle back in here now. I think we've got everything put back together as far as the CV axle goes. I need to torque down the axle nut. So I bought a torque wrench. I have never owned one. I've never used one. I bought a Husky from Home Depot. This is a 1/2-inch drive, 50 to 250 foot-pounds, if that'll focus. This was $91. I feel like it's kind of mid-price range. Like, I didn't want to go get a super cheap one at Harbor Freight. Of course, I don't want to go buy a Snap-on because this is mostly going to just sit around. It had pretty good reviews. Hopefully it's accurate. As best I can tell on the internet, this needs to be 151 foot-pounds. So I'm going to see if I can figure out how to use this thing. This torque wrench is nice. It's got the twist handle to make the adjustments. It's got a long handle to get some leverage. It's pretty heavy, feels pretty solid. It appears to be well built. I think it is made in Taiwan, which pretty much everything's either made in like Taiwan or China now. But we'll see. I've been wanting one for years, so I'm glad I actually finally bought one. It is a gorgeous day today. Sunny and breezy. It's the middle of March in Georgia. This black car is covered in pollen. I think I am done with the CV axle. I had to put the tire on there to torque it down because the rotor kept spinning, but I think the torque wrench worked good. So I think me and Bay over here are about to go to the grocery store. We're gonna run down to O'Reilly's and buy the lower control arm, and we'll keep working on this car. We just got back from O'Reilly's and the grocery store. Spent some more money. This lower control arm with the new ball joint, $150 plus tax. Had to get a pickle fork. They call it a ball joint separator. You know, I had to go to Harbor Freight for that. That was only $10. Bought some transmission fluid because our fluid was leaking out. We're gonna have to top that off. So I'm gonna get my fancy jack here up under the car, get the wheel back off. Hopefully this is not gonna take too long to replace this. I am completely worn out. This ball joint has been a nightmare to try to get out of here. This should have been like a 15-20 minute swap. These bolts back here were easy to remove. I've been fighting this ball joint. Really, this thing right here, whatever little guard this thing is, that's the problem, because I couldn't get my pickle fork or my ball joint, whatever this thing's called. I'm so frustrated right now. I couldn't get this thing in there all the way because this little guard or whatever this thing is, it kept getting in the way. So I have been beating and pounding on this thing. I don't know, it feels like for 2 hours. Finally got it out. I'm about to get this lower control arm put on. There's no directions with this. I'm a little aggravated about that. The CV axle, it's from the same brand, and what is this, Precision? They had some pretty good directions. So I don't know if this thing has grease in it or not, but they do give you a grease fitting, which I like that. I like that this is removable also. So maybe if I have a problem with this in the future, I can just replace the ball joint, maybe save a little money. Got some Allen screws. You know, from the factory, GM, I think you pretty much have to replace the whole thing. They don't make this so you can just unbolt the ball joint and replace that. You know, why don't they do that? Why do these car manufacturers constantly try to screw people over? I mean, if they could make this where you could service it or replace just a ball joint and then they had a decent price on their parts, people would go to the dealer more. They would buy a lot more dealer parts. It has been another productive day. My knees are killing me. I'm probably not going to be able to walk tomorrow after crawling around in this gravel all day. I think we're about done with this project though. So the last thing I need to do is check the transmission fluid. I got to start this thing up, let it get up to operating temperature, Got to add some transmission fluid because it ran out earlier when I was changing the CV axle. Did I mention, I'm so exhausted right now. The sun is going down. It's the end of the day. Okay, I mean, I watched a video earlier. It said the CV axle takes like 1 hour to change. Yeah, 1 hour. That's not the way I roll, man. I knew it was going to take me the whole day. I had so many other things to do today. Oh well. So we're going to call this project done. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and we'll see you soon.